Today we are talking about my investing slash collecting philosophy, things that I always look for, my main rules of thumb, and today I'll be showing you guys the main three things that I use when I'm determining what I should or shouldn't be buying, what I'll be looking for long term, etc. And this mainly applies to Veve because that's where I have the most experience, but as I've branched out into other projects such as Hero or Recur, these are also the same types of things that I'm looking for. Although, keep in mind that things can change as utility and as NFTs and the whole space in general evolves. These things can change, but in my opinion, and up to this point, these philosophies have been very consistent over time, and I think that they'll continue to be consistent long term. And I think that these three factors will continue for the foreseeable future to be some of the main catalysts that give collectibles, NFTs, whatever it might be, value.
Let's go.
What's going on, guys? My name is NFT Flenny. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're enjoying the content, I'd really appreciate a like, comment, or subscription. Any of those things would be more than enough. Without further ado, let's get straight into my collecting philosophy. So as I mentioned, I have three main things that I'm usually looking for, and I'll be going through these in order, starting with most important or the top priority, and then going down. The third one is the least, although still very important, but least from this list. So the first thing is first appearance slash first edition. Now this is so important because as we've been starting to see, not only in the NFT space, but on Veve, as the time goes on, as the years and years pass, the market will get so saturated. I mean, we've already seen how many Batmans come out now. I think up to this point, it's like between 15 and 20. So as you can imagine, as more and more time goes on, there will be even more Batman on the app. So what will be the distinguishing factors that make one Batman more valuable than the other? And in my opinion, and this goes for everything, not just that one character, the first is almost always the most valuable. Of course, there are some exceptions if something has some historical significance or if it has some kind of utility or fill in the blank. But as a general rule of thumb, the first of something is usually the most exclusive and the most valuable. So looking for a first appearance slash first edition on Veve, and especially this requires a bit more research and a bit more knowledge in the space, but if it's also the first on the blockchain in general, if it wasn't released on any other app at all, that gives it even more bonus points, even more credibility, even more value. And that is because as more metadata becomes available, as it becomes easier to see, I think that we'll start to see that a lot of the first that hit the blockchain as a whole, not just what hit Veve first, I think those will over time prove themselves to be some of the most valuable, some of the most exclusive, some of the most prestigious. So that was the first and most important pillar. First appearance, first edition, and the best first on the blockchain. That'll be the main thing to distinguish these collectibles years and years and years down the line. So moving on to the second pillar, the second most important thing, that is brand name slash character name, recognition, popularity, whatever you want to call it. These need to be linked to a big brand, in my opinion. They don't need to be, but that will give you your biggest chance for long-term value just in general. The reason that this is number 2 and not higher than the first appearance or first edition pillar is because even though something can be first appearance or first edition, we'll see probably a million of those literally as time goes on, as more and more collectibles come out for just about every brand. The direction that all these brands are going, all these companies are going, taking NFTs. At some point, almost everything will have a first appearance or a first edition. But that does not mean that it'll automatically be valuable. It usually needs to be linked to some big brand behind it, some kind of historical significance, something that people grew up with or are very fond of, and that have widespread appeal. For example, a collectible from a brand that has 10,000 diehard fans, the demand for that will obviously be way less than a brand that has a million diehard fans. Using a personal example, I know that I really gravitate toward Disney on the Veve app because I know there are millions and millions of extremely diehard Disney fans, meaning that there's a greater chance that somewhere down the line, there will be a diehard collector who will pay just about any price for some kind of first appearance, first of its kind Disney collectible. I've heard a story from Veve Magic on one of the NFT Pirates interviews that people wait in line for about, I want to say like 12 hours and pay like $400 for a limited edition popcorn bucket. So imagine what they would do for the first of its kind of a Disney collectible where you don't have to wait in line, you don't need to get it shipped to you, don't have to get it delivered to you, and it may be, this is speculation, but it could have utility as well. And also something else to consider when it comes to this pillar about character popularity is future potential popularity. I know a few of the comic gurus such as Comics and Crypto and Sleeping Comics in the community, they invest in comics with characters that have high potential to be popular down the line, or newer characters that are more popular with the younger generation of today. So hopefully I didn't just spill any of their secrets, but that's also something to consider. But keep in mind that this is a lot more long-term of a strategy and a lot riskier in my opinion. High reward, of course, if it does pay off, but you'll probably have to wait. In general, I think most NFTs are long-term investments, for the good ones at least. But in this case, it would have to be even longer to see a worthwhile return on investment with that strategy. But it is something to consider and it could pay off for you. So keep that in mind. So now we are on to the third and final pillar, that being scarcity. Now, the reason that this one is last is because I think that in the long term, scarcity number of editions I don't want to say they could be a wash. I think there's a much higher chance that it'll be a wash for the blue chips, the grails. For example, when we have millions and millions of users on, or when millions of collectors are collecting these types of things, the difference between a few thousand or a few hundred in the grand scheme of things might not be as big of a deal as it is today. And I don't think that a relatively high number of editions should scare you away from investing in something that you think is worthwhile or that meets the other criteria that I mentioned. I know at the beginning, it sounds funny to say now, but toward the beginning of Veve, people were saying that Todd wouldn't be that valuable because it had 7,000 editions, while the ultra rares at the time, like the Risso in that same set, has 1,700. They're saying, oh, it has 4 or 5 times the amount of editions, it won't be as valuable. And the reason that I have the pillars set up the way that they are is that the historical significance and the first of its kind definitely outweighed the higher edition size. So for example, say a collectible has 10,000 editions, which is a pretty high edition size by today's standards. Now say there are 10 million users on the app. With those numbers, only 0.1% of users at the maximum could be holding this collectible. So if it's a first appearance of a big character, that could potentially pay off. And you can see how as the users grow, these things will get more and more hard to come by and harder to be holding. You'll need to be in an elite class. So I use all 3 of these strategies every time I'm deciding if I want to go for a drop, if I'm deciding if I want to buy something in the market, and just how I want to invest in digital collectibles in general. So let me know what your collecting philosophy is. Let me know if it differs or is the same as mine. Like the video if you liked it, dislike the video if you disliked it, comment if you got something to say, and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. I'll wrap it up here, guys. As always, this has been NFT Flenny, and I'll catch you guys next time.